Hey everyone, welcome to the Delphi Hive Mind. Today we have Jason, our markets wizard, stepping in for Jose. As usual, we have Ceteris, our head of research, and Jan, our head of ventures. So I guess we can just get things kicked off here. Crazy weekend, obviously, just in general for the US/the world, and then also crypto with the Trump assassination attempt. That was pretty wild. Anyone have thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just the main thing being like, how much of a turnaround there would, or rather, I guess, where we'd be trading if that bullet was 1 inch to the right, and not to focus everything around crypto prices. Obviously, there's a whole host of other issues that would come from that, but I guess more specifically to crypto, since that's what we're talking about, we'd probably be in the 40s or something like that if that bullet hit, instead of ripping through mid 60s.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, obviously, crypto is one aspect, but just like how many things would be different if that was like, yeah, if things were just a little bit different on when was that? Saturday?
Was that Friday? Friday night?
Friday or
Yeah.
Saturday? Yeah, pretty wild.
I don't know. I was sleeping because I was in Brussels,
Yeah, okay.
and then I woke up to like the fam chat, and I was like still kind of not. I was still like tired. I didn't really comprehend it. Uh, then yeah, it was kind of crazy catching up on all that after the fact. And turned out being bullish though. Like
Yeah, well,
like
it
now
is.
it's put a
cemented
lot
him
of
for sure.
yeah, it's cemented him. Like it's it's moved a lot of people to support him. Like that picture is so iconic.
Yeah,
That picture probably got like 1-2% of votes. That picture alone.
the whole argument that I feel like it's you see someone's true like animal instincts in those scenarios, and then people kind of trying to point the finger and say it was taking advantage of a situation to get photos and votes. I mean, I don't know. I don't really see there being a lot of kind of calculated decision making 10 seconds after you, like, a couple of bullets whiz by your head with one hitting your ear. I feel like that's just like your inner rage, and I think that people just really enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, those takes were there's some weird people out there. Basically, is how I'll put it. You don't really know how you're going to react until that happens, right? Like, I don't know what I would do. Would I fist pump or would I
I
like
would run.
just
Are you
run?
kidding me?
I'd
Yeah.
probably run. I probably wouldn't be fist pumping, but maybe it'd be nice. It's a nice thought to think I would be fist pumping. So
Yeah, pretty insane. Did you guys see that like 3D rendering where they had like the
Yeah.
full 3D face and then just like showed?
It's like the aerial view where it just shows his head
Yeah,
rotating.
yeah. No, it was pretty wild because it's like heads like this and the bullet's coming, and then he's just like, and it goes by his ear. That was the wrong direction.
so yeah, I
But
mean, so
yeah,
bringing this
pretty
back to
crazy.
like markets, I guess. We were like what 60ish when that happened.
59.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
like
high
58,
50s.
59.
Yeah, and now it's like now you're seeing all these like A16Z and all these supporters coming out being pro Trump. There's this podcast yesterday with the A16C guys, and it was pretty interesting. But like how they're all pushing their support towards Trump now.
Yeah,
It's like
there's a
not
lot of tech
taboo.
people.
It's not taboo to support Trump publicly now, which is the biggest difference from I think
Oh,
when
from
he got
last election, dude? It
yeah,
was wild, dude. It was wild. At least where I live, like in New York, it was like if you would like even like suggest that you were thinking about maybe voting Trump, it was lots of social ostracization. It was just like a very weird environment, one that I'd never like seen before. I was like, this is like super weird. Like, why? But yeah, that it like kind of makes it like, I don't know, openly supporting him is like the popular thing now, kind of, which is also kind of wild to me given how fast things change.
Yeah, it does seem like he's a bit of a different person now versus before too, in terms of understanding what needs to be done, and approaching the role differently, right? Firing less from the hip, being more calculated, surrounding himself with smarter people. I think that's probably what the tech community sees quite a bit of, right? It's just how difficult the current administration is when it comes to M&A and regulation and stifling all of that, and having a candidate who's kind of going the complete other direction on that front.
Yeah, I mean, instead of having Mike Pence in his pocket, now he's got essentially Peter Thiel, right? So it's a pretty big upgrade, and now people are calling him like the new shadow president, which would be like bullish for tech and stuff, right? So yeah,
I just got a notification on Polymarket. Biden's odds jump over 75% of dropping out. Biden's odds dropping out.
Yeah,
jump over
that 1-2
75%.
of like tweet one, I'll drop out if I'm sick, if I'm diagnosed with something, and then 3 hours later I am sick.
I'm sick.
COVID.
Yeah,
It's a circus.
So wait, what happens if Biden drops out? Does it go to Kamala, or they?
Mhm.
And then who's the VP?
I think they have to pick that.
At this point, yeah, it does, right? Because it's too late to change it. Is that how that works?
I think in order to keep the funding that they raised,
the
it needs
$90
to
million
be someone
that
on
they
the current
have.
ticket.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, but that makes sense. Which I guess would be like, I guess that's like better, right? Because like, wasn't the argument like a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, like if Biden's like drops out, it actually makes it tougher for Trump to win because they replace him with somebody who's like alive. So
the problem is it just kind of usurps the whole Democratic primary process and basically allows a few people in power to kind of
pick the candidate.
Put in place. Yeah, which is
it's pretty bad that it happened now, and like it didn't. That's I think kind of shady, I guess. Like everybody knew he was like this the whole time.
Well, yeah, like right after the debate, the whole thing, everything seems like there's just a little bit of orchestrated. Like literally right after the debate, the whole CNN panel just starts trashing it.
Drop out.
I don't know.
I'm like,
the
what?
media is insane to me how some of these people have jobs. Like I was there was this thing on NBC yesterday, and this host was comparing Biden recovering
Joy
from
Reid.
COVID.
Yeah.
Biden recovering from COVID just as heroic as Trump surviving the assassination attempt.
This is strong.
She's been awful. I mean, if you see all of her takes are that caliber of just like what
that caliber.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyways, it is pretty insane. Anyways, let's.
But I mean, we got ETF on Tuesday, right?
Well, I guess the last
you
thing
also
on
got
the
JD Vance.
Yeah,
I think that's a big appointment, right? For a couple of reasons. I guess more crypto specifically is because he's disclosed holdings between 1 and 250K. He's a tech guy, but still kind of really appeals to middle America. But as part of this younger demographic, a Thiel kind of understudy, and so before we had Trump being bullish, now you have VP being bullish, and I think this is probably going to be one of the more impactful VPs in a while, whereas previously it was kind of just a position to how many marginal votes can this guy give me?
Smile and wave.
Exactly. And here the idea is, they're kind of positioning him to try and be the future of the party. So it's not just like a fresh start after 4 years, but rather a kind of a transition to a longer term.
What do you guys think they're going to say at the conference? I
was wondering
the Bitcoin
that too.
Conference. Yeah.
I gotta imagine we'll hold balance sheet BTC. That would be super bullish if they add, like, that would be the most bullish.
There's no way they're gonna announce that they're
yeah, there's no way they're gonna do that. That would send us to 100K. That would send us to 100K.
But anyways, for those who don't know, I think Trump and who else are speaking at the Bitcoin conference?
It was Trump, Vivek,
suspects, Saylor.
Nice. So I think that's at the end of July. When is that? A couple weeks?
Yeah.
I think the best thing you can do is like, hey, we're not going to make it illegal, and we're going to have like better regulation and maybe some stuff around self-custody. Like we're going to protect your right to self-custody, and then we're going to try
the one
and
message he keeps also parroting is obviously unrealistic, but still it's something that you can infer from is the whole we want all the Bitcoin being made in the US kind of thing, which maybe there's kind of friendly tax structures or something like that for miners. I don't know, something favorable for miners to bring more of that onshore.
Yeah, that's a funny thing to say.
Bitcoin's made in the USA.
Bring back the
Duncan.
jobs and bring back the Bitcoin.
We want all, yeah.
Yeah, but you won't be able to buy China Bitcoin. There'll be a 50% tariff on those.
Yeah, and then yeah, so ETH ETF next week. That'll finally in July. There we go.
Yeah, Tuesday for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And we've seen some like insane flows into the Bitcoin ETF in the past like 8 or 9 days. I think it's like I don't know what I think it's over 2 billion now in the past 9 days, trading days, which is
Basically the German selling.
yeah. But these guys are diamond handed.
And then
Not like the
Gox
Germans.
Gox coins are all being distributed. Like Kraken will be next week, I think.
Yeah, I
And
did see
then-
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the market seems to be taking that pretty well, all things considered.
I mean, I don't think most people are gonna sell it. They're probably gonna try and make it all back. You know.
Oh, yeah. But I guess like the big thing with the Gox coins is like, this process has been going on for like 10 years, 10 or 11 years. So if people really needed the money, then there was definitely ways to earlier liquidity versus just like waiting and holding the Bitcoin. Because like even if you think like the opportunity cost of like waiting those 11 years, if you like really needed the money, is like pretty massive. So
There'd be some selling off this, like the whole idea of, oh, he got in early, but part of the difficulty of is of actually realizing that all that performance is holding the whole time, and so these
yeah.
guys were kind of forced holders, and you got to imagine the amount that they're getting. Although isn't it being distributed at cost or something, or what's
No. So they only recovered 15% of the Bitcoin from the exchange, but like Bitcoin's like 100x. So like they basically, I think, cover everyone in kind and they force you to hold, but it's not like they're recovering all of it. So that obviously helps. So it's like 10x the value instead of, or 15x the value instead of, 100 or 100x the value. But yeah, there's probably gonna be some selling, but I don't know if it's gonna be as bad as like the Germans literally just dumped 40,000 BTC in like a week with everyone watching them
during probably the most illiquid time you could do
Yeah,
it, which is like midsummer holiday.
started it on July 4th or like accelerated it on July 4th. Yeah, that was just ridiculous.
Yeah, this is why we have to make Bitcoin a bad tool for criminals, so that governments can't confiscate it and then dump it. Because
That's where the selling.
every time a government confiscates Bitcoin from one of these things, they're just gonna methodically.
Well, the
sell
US
it.
they
The
still
US
own
has
like
it. The US has
24
it.
billion or 12 billion.
But that's a
something
lot. That's like
that.
a lot. I'm talking. This was like a small government. This wasn't like the German federal government. This was like some smaller like.
Which did they
state
just
or
get to
whatever.
keep it? That's kind of sick.
Yeah. So for them, it's like free money, right? It's just as,
And just
Here,
paid their
some
budget for the next 10 years, bro.
yeah, some criminal proceeds. Who cares if Bitcoin even doubles from here? They're not a hedge fund. They don't care. This is all free money, so they're just gonna sell it right away.
the U.S. government holds 13.5 billion, 210,000 Bitcoin, 213,000 Bitcoin.
Rookie numbers.
So hopefully Trump says
Trump
he'll
pumps
diamond
those
hand
up.
that.
Yeah.
So they
But
own
yeah.
1% of the Bitcoin supply, right? Is that the
Yeah.
math? There
The
they go.
U.S. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a good start if you
Owns
want to
close to
do
1% now.
something with a strategic, reserve asset. Trump said something, who knows what he's actually going to do, but he did float it in an interview. So
What did he say?
it was like a Forbes headline the other week.
That's definitely clickbait. There's no way he said it's we're considering it as a strategic reserve asset.
I'm pretty
If he
sure he did.
Incredibly.
Oh yeah, I think he
bullish.
did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, on July 3rd, Trump sparks talks of Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset.
But what did he actually say?
Oh, well.
That's so stretched.
I would need to go on
bet.
his Truth Social post and read it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was stretched.
The other thing he's been saying, or I guess this is more of like a past 24 hours thing, that Jamie Dimon is turning his changing his tune on Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, because
But
they're
if we
talking
have to
about him
see
as
anything,
the
Treasury
Treasury
Secretary.
Secretary,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
That
here
would
it
be
is. Here it
that
is.
would be pretty cool.
Vote for Trump. Bitcoin mining may be our last line of defense against the CBDC. Biden's hatred of Bitcoin only helps China, Russia, and the radical communist left. We want all remaining Bitcoin to be made in the USA. It will help us be energy dominant. And then there's a ...
Yeah. So nothing
I
about
guess
strategic reserve there, but
you can connect the dots, Duncan.
Well, he's talked a
obviously.
lot about energy too. There's that
Yeah.
interview that came out yesterday, the one where he went on about Coke versus Diet Coke. That was a fun ramble. But there was this whole this whole energy thing too that he wants to incentivize a lot.
no,
right?
it's massively important, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, well, Biden ran down the whole SPR during COVID. Like, I forget the numbers, but they ran down, like, I want to say at least like 70% of it,
Yeah.
60% of it. And yeah, obviously, I think the US is now like a net exporter of oil through shale, but like if they want to keep inflation down and like US as its position in the world, they need cheap energy still.
So what are you bullish right now, Duncan?
What am I bullish right now?
Yeah.
I guess like Bitcoin, Solana, ETH, the standard ones.
Yeah.
Gold has hit a new all-time high last week to like 2,450 an ounce. Gold miners, and yeah, some of the best altcoins in the market.
Didn't you post something on like Galaxy on Twitter?
Oh, Galaxy. Galaxy, that's a good one. I forgot. Yeah, so Galaxy is Novogratz company. This is actually an interesting one to talk about. I think they're maybe at like, I want to say like 4.5 billion US market cap. And just like on their balance sheet alone, I think they probably hold like 2.5 billion worth of crypto and other investments. Plus they have kind of all these business arms where they do like a ton of trading. They have like investment banking for like M&A within crypto. They have like a venture business. They have a mining business. They have like this asset management business.
Isn't their miner like mining like processor?
Whoa,
I guess.
whoa. New tweet. Trump to announce USA strategic reserve.
Is that actually?
This is a Bitcoin guy, Dennis Porter.
Yeah,
He says
these
Trump
guys.
to announce. I don't know how much I believe this. He says Trump to announce a USA Bitcoin strategic reserve in Nashville. Sources.
Yeah,
So
that's
this is like
sounds good. I'm in.
I don't know if I believe this. I don't think this.
Retweet.
Let's check. Okay, the market isn't up, so that's a lie.
I was gonna say, isn't Galaxy's mining mining rig and operation one of the better ones? I was reading about this the other day that I think that their mining operation is one of the better in the U.S.
Yeah, so they acquired Helios, which is this big miner in Texas, for like $65 million during like the bear market, which is like pretty cheap. And I think it's like 220 megawatt facility, and they're like in the process of, I believe, upgrading it to like an 800 megawatt facility, which is like on par with some of like the bigger miners, like in the same order of magnitude. I don't know exactly, but like with your Marathon Digitals, like Clean Spark, those sort of players. So that's like an angle. They're basically touch everything crypto, and they're also doing like what Genesis did. So like this kind of prime brokerage. So they have like the institutional arm. I think they just partnered with State Street on like trying to sell the ETFs or like help them give their clients exposure to crypto. They have a bunch of trading. They have a ventures business. They hold a bunch of crypto on the balance sheet. They're in charge of stuff like the FTX estate, and it's listed. And why it's interesting is because it doesn't trade very expensive relative to like the other Bitcoin miners or like MicroStrategy or Coinbase, and it's only listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange under GLXY. And obviously, like they've been trying to get uplisted to the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, but since like the SEC has been pretty unfriendly to crypto, they haven't been able to. But I think that's like a massive, that's like going from being listed on KuCoin to Binance if they if they can secure the uplisting. So like that's an interesting way to play, the Trump presidency, because obviously that regulation should open up. So like, if you like Coinbase, maybe take a look at Galaxy. There, maybe some of their businesses compete, but I would say Galaxy is more like focused on the institutional side, where Coinbase has like a lot of retail offerings that Galaxy doesn't really compete in. So that's a cool one if you guys haven't. If no,
I
one's
like that.
seen it
That was
as an
it's a
equity.
cool idea.
Yeah. Oh, they're also like the biggest Solana validator. Like they have so many things. Like you just need to keep on. Like the rabbit hole's deep.
Yeah, I think that they're going
they
to start
touch like
dropping off.
everything.
They're going to start dropping off Solana. What's what's going on in Solana is that all the apps are starting to overtake like other validator, like professional validators. So Helios, Mert's company, they just became number 2. They passed Coinbase the other day. Some of the other OG validators, like Shinobi and Lane, are dropping down because applications keep taking over. And so this is like a cool dynamic in Solana versus Ethereum, is that the applications are running validators, right? Because also Solana has this stake weighted quality of service now, where the more stake you have, like the higher your inclusion probabilities. So apps are kind of, and like you can debate if this is a good, it's not a great mechanism. That's just what they have for now. But you're seeing a lot of apps run validators. So I would say Galaxy is probably going to drop their validator size on Solana. If I want to just like FUD your
Wait, why?
take, because more people are going to keep delegating to like apps on Solana versus, I mean, Galaxy will keep whatever institutions I guess they have, but we'll see. I mean, Helios passing Coinbase is pretty cool, man. Like
Yeah,
when you
that
really think
is good for
about
them.
that, right?
Like they just like start that.
Yeah,
Like,
not too long ago, and they made the LST, which is another thing on Solana. You have all these individual LSTs, which is a pretty cool dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely good for them. They've
So I
got
mean,
a lot of stakes sold.
I got a kind of like a question for you guys about, with ETH, with the ETF coming up next week, and obviously the question or the debate on Twitter has been, Sol ETH pretty much all cycle, right? So how do you guys kind of see Sol ETH, or like the dynamic between the two playing out once we get this ETF? Like initially, like my thinking is, right, like given like I think it'll be like bullish for Sol also, because I think like the next obvious thing you have to look forward to is the Sol ETF after this. Like 6 months ago, that probably wouldn't be the case. Like I don't even like 6 months ago, nobody thought we'd have an ETH ETF this year, right?
Yeah.
So a lot has changed. And like I think that's like kind of a reason why like ETH didn't really perform as expected compared to Bitcoin, like in the run up to the Bitcoin ETF, because I don't think people were like immediately speculating that the ETH ETF would come anytime soon, right? Like it was kind of like, well, there's no real good narrative here. It's like like the fragmented liquidity, like there's all these things that people talked about ad nauseum. And then I think like the big thing is like in January, when the Bitcoin ETF launched, I was under the impression, I think most people were, that the ETH ETF wouldn't come until maybe early 2025. So like that's like a ton of time to speculate on like, oh, ETH ETF. So like, it kind of continues to underperform ETH BTC. Or so like I don't really think that's the case now, right? Like I think with the regulatory shift and like with Trump leading as much as he is, I think like the next obvious thing to think about once this is like approved and launching and trading is a Sol ETF. So I'm not like I don't have a super strong opinion, and I'm trying to form one here. It's like, what do you guys think?
So for me, the ETH ETF is like the only reason I've been like bullish on ETH recently, because nothing else is making me bullish on ETH really. But you can't like deny the flows and everything. And so if we're talking like next 6 months, whatever, I don't know. It depends how these flows go.
Okay, so I think Bloomberg Boys said 10% of Bitcoin, or 10% of what we saw with Bitcoin flows is what they're expecting for ETH flows. So if we've had like 20 billion of net flows through 7 months of the year, that would be about, I guess, what, 2 billion for ETH.
Yeah, I guess the thing for me is like I just expect Solana's metrics are just going to keep growing faster than Ethereum's. They're going to keep getting more developers, It's the biggest problem in Ethereum for a new developer is like, where do you deploy? You have no idea. You have too many options. It's too confusing. And then like, oh, you can make your own app chain. It's like, hey, nobody's going to go there. There's no liquidity there. And so I think for new developers coming in, it's like a very simple decision. Solana has all this liquidity now. They have a lot of users there. Um, and Solana is going to start doing like L2s, app chains, all this stuff. But they're going to look a lot differently, because if you're a developer who's like learning as, like Solana virtual machine, you'll always have the option to deploy on L1, right? So if you want shared state, you just go deploy on L1 and you can have the shared state. And then if you want like app specific, because you don't want to share block space with anyone, then go make an L2, right? And if you're Ethereum dev, you don't have that. That's not the like decision you're making, because all these L2s are essentially creating their own general purpose like shared state. And so it's like, do I want Arbitrum's shared state? Do I want Optimism? Do I want Base? Do I want Blast? And I also just don't see L2s as scaling Ethereum. Like, I've just fundamentally always kind of disagreed with this narrative. And I think other people are coming around to this too. So, which is why you see all this base roll up talk recently.
Yeah, so can you expand upon like why you think the LTs on Solana will be better for Solana than the LTs on Ethereum will be better than like that compare and contrast?
I don't know if they'll be better for the apps. If you make an app specific rollup, you should accrue most of that value to your application, right?
Yes.
I think my point is that a lot of apps will just launch on the L1 because they'll always have that option, which is good for Solana. And then they can either launch like an isolated L2 that rolls to Solana. I mean, they could also just use Solana as like based rollups, because Solana is like the number one thing you need for based rollups is like super fast block times, which is why they're kind of like infeasible in Ethereum. And that's why like right now Ethereum has 12-second block times. There's all this talk recently about shortening Ethereum block times a lot and getting single slot finality so they can do all these based rollups. And so Solana is already a good shared sequencer. And I mean, there's this protocol, Rome protocol, that just raised 9 mil, who's using Solana as like shared sequencer. And so they'll have that option there. I just think that Solana Eco really needs to take this opportunity, because I mean, I was at ECC and Modular this week, and my main takeaway is that nothing's happened for a year.
I need.
Yeah, nothing's happened. It's basically research has progressed a year. That's what it is. All the talks, like last year, there was a lot of excitement, and went to all these side events, and like people were talking about LVR. People were talking about app sequencing, app contract sequence, like app chain versus app contract. Talking about sovereign rollups, talking about ZK stuff, and you know that's the same thing everyone was talking about. I kind of got a bit of deja vu there. And that's just the reality, I guess, that these things take time. And so like Ethereum will get to the end state it wants to get to, but there is this time effect, right?
Yeah.
Where this is kind of the moment for Solana to really step on I think the biggest risk to Solana is, I guess, they get complacent, right? But there's just to me, there's such a massive opportunity here to just keep accelerating over the next couple years. Like even Celestia, the Mustafa had this presentation. He was like 2021. These were all the modular projects, and there was a very small amount, right? And then it was 2022. Here's the modular, and it was a pretty big increase. And then it was 2023, and it was an even bigger increase. And then 2024, it was like the same as 2023. Same team, same projects, same discussions mostly. I think the newest change, I guess, is people are taking TEE seriously. So like trusted execution environments for privacy and stuff. That's kind of the big takeaway I got, is that those are gonna start to be used a lot.
So if we had to more for the normies, non-technical people, if you had to say your outlook on like Solana scaling over the next year versus Ethereum scaling over the next year, what would you say?
I mean, yeah, Solana Firedancer should be live. Firedancer built their first block like a week or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
So how big of a like efficiency or scalability improvement is Firedancer?
You can't really put exact numbers on it.
Okay.
In like a local test environment, only doing the most basic of transactions, they can
Mm-hmm.
hit like a mil. That's not something you're going to see in production.
And how many is like current Solana
Solana,
prod?
Solana does like what 3,000. And the thing about Solana TPS too is that it's basically demand based up to like a limit.
So you're talking about
So
like one or maybe two orders of magnitude
I could, yeah,
greater.
like everybody running Fire Dancer, and there's obviously there's like a lot of bugs that can happen. There's a lot of like path dependency and a lot of risks, but I think I think most people would be expecting like an order of magnitude increase,
Okay,
or
that's good. So
like half an order.
3,000 to 15,000 or 30,000. We think
Yeah,
is
like
possible.
I mean like 10K plus I think is what people are expecting if everyone's running it.
Okay, lots of
And
hedging.
how quickly would the adoption cycle
Oh,
take
I
place?
think pretty quick because it's going to be hard to be a validator without running Fire Dancer if everyone
Mhm.
else is so much faster than you. But like, there's other stuff too. There's a validator client on Solana that's working on just like on home hardware, being able to run a full node basically. I don't really know how feasible it is in their progress, but like that's pretty cool too.
And what about the ZK stuff that like Mert was talking about, like the ZK
It's kind of like what
compression?
they do with NFTs. So they have compressed NFTs on Solana where they just post like a Merkle root on chain that proves the off chain data. And so then RPCs like feed the data to the chain. And you can do the same stuff with tokens and other things.
So
So,
that could increase scalability more.
well, you can just get more stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you think in a year Solana gonna have maybe 10 to 30,000 TPS in that ballpark?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would
Don't
take
want to
that.
hold it to you. And then
If you're, is this a
what
poly
about
market
ETH?
50-50? Yeah, I'll take the yes on that.
And
I'll
then
buy the
where's ETH gonna look in a year in terms of scaling? Like not much different, right?
ETH will be like I would imagine base is doing a lot. Um, I I don't know what's going on with Optimism L1. It feels like base just kind of took all that over. Arbitrum, there's just a lot of random chains in ETH, right? So maybe
Yeah.
there's some killer app that launches. That would be nice. Like maybe we get some killer app that has its own chain and like everyone's using that, right?
Yeah, that would be cool. Hyperliquid could be it. Hyperliquid's pretty popular.
Maybe that's just like a centralized exchange, though. No, aren't they like one node or something? And just
For now.
For now,
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
chill, relax,
Okay.
stop
I don't.
flooding.
I actually don't
Don't flood
know.
their purr bags.
But
Listen,
yeah.
I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater.
But going back to the Sol ETH stuff, yeah, I
Right.
feel like Sol at 1/5 or 1/6 of ETH's market cap, even with the ETH ETF, and like it sounds like just so much of like the new marginal users, so many of the new marginal users are going to Solana versus Ethereum, and Ethereum still has like a lot of the capital there, a lot of the stable coins there, a lot of like the trust there, but it definitely seems like the new entrants or new capital is kind of more skewed towards Solana.
But the thing is, like, even
Yeah.
if let's say one of these rolls, sorry, y'all. Let me just make this one point. Like, even if one of these new roll ups, like let's say Mega ETH, they figured out. I mean, their Mega ETH is going like the most extreme centralized. We're beefing the fuck out of this one sequencer, and we're making it as centralized as possible. And like we're just going for it, max performance, right? And I don't know what they're using for DA because they can't use ETH. They probably can't use Celestia. They're gonna have to figure that part out because they're still gonna be bottlenecked. But let's say they're like really successful, get a lot of users and everything. I still don't know like how bullish that is for ETH. Like why? Like everything is sequenced by Mega ETH sequencer. Like I think the thing we've realized over the last year or two is that all the money is in sequencing for the most part. Like
Yeah, it's
90%.
just ordering transactions.
Yeah, and so those who order the transaction, that's why L2 tokens could theoretically be bullish, but the problem is that they're just used for grants these days. And so
And they're just way too big relative. If you like, it'd be bullish. The reason you get bullish them is for fundamental reasons. But then if you start trying to do fundamental valuation on any of them, you're like, all right, this doesn't make sense. So that's why I think the whole value prop of the other stuff is just increasing the moneyness of ETH. Right, ETH is still used as the collateral and all this stuff, and so I think it's honestly like what you lose in gas demand, you gain in quote unquote moneyness and store value kind of capacity, is the argument. I think, yeah, like the whole Sol versus ETH thing, it probably just depends on how cute you want to get with like the trade. If you're looking a year from now, I think it's harder to make the argument that ETH outperforms. So if you're thinking on like that level of time horizon, purely returns basis, I think Sol makes more sense. On like a risk adjusted basis, I don't know. They probably have similar degrees of risk, so I don't think that changes the calculus there. On a shorter time horizon, what do you have going for ETH? Obviously, like the flows from the ETF, and it's kind of the more institutionalized asset where like BlackRock's doing all their stuff on ETH, and so the narrative is stronger there from like the more polished underlying chain, whereas Sol is, I'd say, attracting more of the new user cohort, but is still more of a degen chain. But I think with an ETF, that narrative can shift, so it's more just priced in now in terms of penalizing Sol price, I think, to that degree. But yeah, I'm in a similar camp where I think Sol outperforms a longer time horizon. I think you could see an opportunity for ETH to outperform on a shorter time horizon, but that window closes with the odds of a because the odds of a Sol ETF are so much higher now, right? Previously, it's just going to outperform because the Sol ETF was so far out, it can't really be priced in, and the probability of a Sol ETF was so low that it can't really be priced in. But now with everything kind of happening, that gets priced in a lot earlier, and so I think there's going to be a window where ETH outperforms, but I think if you zoom out like over a year, it's harder to see ETH outperform Sol.
Yeah.
do you think everyone's excited that ETH is getting this ETF because yay, now we have institutional investors, we've got the boomers to buy our bags, all this stuff. Do you think they are going to and at the same time it's like what's the narrative for ETH and it's this tech platform and everything, okay? Do you think they're going to underwrite it as money or they are going to look at it on like a fundamental basis, right? And I just don't see them looking at it as like a money thing like they look at Bitcoin. I just think they're fundamentally different parts. For me, I've always viewed crypto as Bitcoin and everything else. It's like they both, yeah, they all show it on coin market cap and there's some similarities in the tech and everything, but they are kind of like fundamentally different. I don't know, maybe Bitcoin's becoming a DA layer now, so it's
No,
changing a
I
bit.
think
But
I think like where ETH could maybe get a narrative, and like I still don't know if this outperforms Sol over time. Like I think Sol will probably outperform over a longer time period. That's what seems to be becoming more like of an inevitability as you look like in the future. At least in the next like 1 or 2 years. But I definitely think ETH has some potential on the narratives of like more stable coins launching on them. Like it didn't State Street just mention something about a stable coin? You have like State Street talking about a stable coin, Vanek, like Vanek Sun's doing Agora to compete with
yeah, but it's like
Circle. These RWAs, but those are like I said. I understand long term that's not necessarily
that's
an
not
ETH
even the point I'm
specific
making.
thing.
That's not even the point I'm making. I'm like, even if these guys launch these things on ETH L1, okay, but then to actually use them, you're probably gonna like bridge them to L2s, and then like what is that? What's that doing? What's that giving back to ETH
It's
at that
just like
point?
a lot of capital
Well,
on the
yeah.
chain.
The argument is like, what do you base the fundamental value
Yeah.
of ETH on? Is it purely based on fees, or do you factor in TVL and users and all of that? Because those other things do contribute to all of the fundamental variables that aren't burn.
And fees will definitely go up. Like, so you have the stable coins and maybe like the RWA stuff that BlackRock has, that like build fund, which is like 500 million on it. and like the fees will go up on L1, and you will get that kind of reflexive cycle getting kicked off. But eventually, yeah, you run into the problem at the end of the day. It's like, you either push these users to L2, which like, kind of cannibalizes from some fees from the L1, or like you push them to Solana because it's just not scalable yet.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is that Ethereum core devs are actually looking at like the execution side of stuff. And there's like a lot of proposals on that, and so that's like pretty bullish, I guess, because they've never really thought about that before.
What do you mean by the execution
Well, like
side?
all the Ethereum upgrades are always around like consensus changes,
Mm-hmm.
and so now it's like, oh, how do we actually scale execution? How do we make
Yeah.
like EVM more performance, stuff like that? And so that's
That's
finally
good.
it's good that yeah, like
I-
that's what I mean, right? Listen, Ethereum is always going to be this. Ethereum has some very useful properties, right? I think a lot of the bull case for Ethereum though is more so like qualitative than quantitative, right? It's
Yeah, and that kind of like the stuff that Gabe talks about, like our
right. That's
one of
Gabe's whole bull
Delphi's
case on
lawyer.
Ethereum is around qualitative things, right? It's like the censorship resistance, the I don't know what else does he say. That's like the main thing. That's like the main thing.
Jason, what are the charts telling us?
I mean, what for
Did
Sol ETH?
It's in the charts. What are they telling
Everything's
us?
in the charts, obviously. The German selling, Trump getting nicked. It was in the charts, dude. You didn't buy the lows. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really have a strong opinion. I was kind of thinking about it from the perspective of like the number that the Bloomberg guys gave for ETH ETF flows. Like we're expecting 10% of Bitcoin's flows to be the numbers for the ETH products, right? Which like isn't really that much money, but I guess you don't really need that much money to move an asset. And I think a big difference is like we had a huge run up into the Bitcoin ETF approval and then another huge run up after it. Like ETH is like, I mean, I guess it's up now a little bit after the like that tweet a couple weeks ago, the God Candle tweet where it was up like 20% or whatever. But like I think ETH outperforming in the immediate term makes a lot of sense. Although for me, it's more of a decision of like I have Bitcoin, like a lot of Bitcoin spot positions and Sol, right? And like for me to allocate to ETH, I would have to sell one of those.
Coin margin perps, bruh.
Right. If I'm not going into, if I'm not going to, which is what I'm probably going to end up doing. Right. So for me, like, I just don't like, I don't have a strong enough opinion on ETH's outperformance over any like meaningful time frame that would like make me as like an allocator of my spot bags sell out of BTC or Sol.
I agree. That makes sense. I just checked the chart, the Sol ETH chart. It looks good.
So that's why it's like a tough decision for me.
0.1. In private, Cedrus's target's 0.1. He won't say that himself, but I'll say it. Sol's going higher.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just tough for me to like, sell a spot. Like if I'm just building out positions like that. So like the way that I'm planning on playing it is probably like what Jan said, just either through perps, like once we get the approval and we start pumping and just kind of play it like that. But like I don't see a very strong argument for selling out of the other two positions, which is where the allocation would have to come from.
This is why Banana Gun's such a great play. You got your ETH trading fee exposure. They're launching their new Solana product. It's just the best of both worlds. It's a small market cap on the relative basis. Got some high beta.
Yeah, in terms of ETH beta, I think that's been a big Widowmaker trade.
Except for Banana Gun.
ETH I mean, right now it's been Maker, and that's
Maker's been pretty good, yeah. But that's
Maker's been trading well. I think you got a decent situation where Rune has bought back a lot. Like there's been a good kind of shuffling of coins over time, and into decently stronger hands. So I think you have that, and then the whole idea of there's going to be a bunch of catalysts, but kind of without any specific timelines, just randomly scattered throughout the year. yeah, it's kind of nuts how they haven't really provided much in terms of concrete deadlines, but I guess it's probably for the better sometimes. Yeah, that's been one of the few that's kind of done well. But ETH beta chasing in general has been a pretty tough trade. If you chart a lot of these against ETH, they've broadly outperformed aside from like a few windows which are very difficult to time.
Bananigans at all-time high in US dollars, and
Yeah, but
against
if you're trying to
ETH.
take a bigger swing, it's not as feasible. It's like
I know,
on-chain
but
liquidity only.
for most people, it is feasible. Unless you're like running a fund. Even if you're running a fund, you can buy some. But yeah. Anyways, obviously have banana.
I fund did buy banana recently or a couple weeks ago, right? I forget who it was, but they announced it on Twitter. No, it was announced on Twitter.
I'm messaging everyone possible to get.
I know you are. Like one thing that I was looking at, and like,
Duncan.
Does anybody know anything like about ENS and why the chart looks so good?
I think they actually have like a good business model.
I mean,
but I don't really know.
Sense.
You can charge a lot for vanity plates, you know.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I don't know. When you talk about like looking at the charts, Duncan, right? Like there is something to be said for coins that trade stronger within like an ecosystem than its peers or like, you know, comparable names.
Sure.
So like, I don't know, it's just something I've been watching over the last couple months, and I'm just like, you know, this like it's trading better than ETH. It's trading better than most things in ETH land, and like, I don't know, maybe there's something there. I just haven't really looked at the business or like anything really about like why it might be. But if you look at it, looks real good.
We'll have to get back on that when Cedars Jivany takes on ENS.
I've never been interested in like the product, but a lot of people are. So I don't know. I don't know enough to have a comment on the token.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why you'd want to like tie the vanity to your personal address, but I don't know.
I mean, it depends.
It could be anonymous too, so you know.
Well, I mean, you also have like there's reason to have a public address, right? If you're doing like your NFT collection,
the business,
a bunch of other stuff, and PFPs, and yeah.
I mean, people will always buy stupid shit like that. That's like a thing that's been proven across like decades.
Who's building ENS for Solana? Is there Solana name?
They've had them, but it's like I don't know. Bonafide, I think was what it was called.
That thing got torched. Weren't they doing a bunch of stuff? That chart.
Does it even show up anymore?
I don't know, but oh yeah, here Bonafide. Like I just remember this is a 2021 coin. Oh, let's check. All-time high down 98.6%.
What's the market cap?
40 million.
It's still wow. I would have guessed like
fully diluted is 300 million.
Oh wow.
This thing was trading at like $10. It's at 27 cents. So at $10 it would have been 10 billion. This is a sneak peek on what some of these low float high LTV coins are going to be trading
like in a year and a half.
You know, we've been warning about that for a while, but still, yeah, be careful with those unless you know what you're doing. Go pull up the Bonafide chart, ticker FIDA. That's a little sneak peek. Unfortunately, I think that was like an early Sol like SBF Eco type thing.
Yeah, it was like that. Serum were the early ones.
And they even have a Binance listing. Anyways, that's a tough chart. Could be a value buy now.
300 mil FDV value buy. So yeah, I think I agree though with Ceteris. I mean I'll actually like make like a guess. Like I think end of the year, like December 31st, I think Sol ETH will probably be around like 0.055 or 0.06.
That's the same as what it is now, isn't it?
No, it's like 0.04.
No, it's like
0.045.
46.
I see you're a 20% move, Jason.
That would be at all-time highs for the cycle.
What sort of prediction is that?
That would be a new high for the cycle.
The thing about Sol ETH is like off the bottom, it's like 4 or 5x, right? And so now you're looking at, I mean, probably it's like you're looking at, is there like a 2x left in it, right? So it's different. It's like a different mindset than it was. Like Sol's run a lot, right? So
yeah, like 0.06 would
we're
be
doing Sol ETH relative on like we're talking 2x in relative terms, right? In absolute, there's still
Oh yeah, you still
Oh, yeah,
expect.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we're all like permables, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like 6K 500. That's nice, right? That's I could get
Those are
behind
good
that.
numbers.
That's my bull. That's
I
my
could get
bull
on board with
NFA.
that.
That's
I feel
my
like you need some
NFA
real
bull.
big flows to get 6K.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
God, come
Well, I
on.
don't know. What would BTC be in that scenario? Like 115, 120?
The
If it was,
strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Yeah, there's more catalysts for BTC at this point. I feel like ETH
That's why I'm
BTC is going to
saying.
go
well,
lower.
if BTC goes to 120, ETH BTC goes to 05, that's down a little bit. Then you get your 6K, right? That's like kind of reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like what would take BTC to 120, I think would cause there to be it'd be lower than 0.05.
Imagine what
sense.
Banana
That's
would
like
true.
if
get,
you're doing-
I get what
if
you're
you're doing, like,
saying. Yeah.
So you'd say
strategic
like
reserve
a
type
banking
stuff.
crisis or something happens, everybody just swarms Bitcoin ETFs.
No, more like strategic reserve conversations.
Or then
that are
everybody just
really
swarms
focused on
Bitcoin,
BTC. Yeah.
for just a mere double.
I mean, no, you can make the case that. Listen, I'm
Well,
not
by
this
the end
much
of
of
the
an
year,
ETH
that
bear,
would be
but like,
insane. Yeah, by the end of the year. Let's talk like.
I'm not this much of an
8
ETH bear,
months.
but I mean, you can make the case that ETH is still like overvalued against BTC by a lot. If
You
like
could.
BTC really becomes this like type of asset, so
Just wow. So Sol 500, ETH 5,000, Banana what? Hi, like I'm thinking 500 as well. Banana Sol parity.
Banana Soul parity.
That's the trade I'm playing.
so is there anything else we want to talk about? I feel like that's kind of it. It's
Yeah, we had
I
like
mean,
the Trump stuff.
rate cuts
Oh,
look like
yeah.
they're coming now, right? September, so
Yeah, I mean September's like 95%, they think, is what like the Fed Watch tool has.
Wow, that's high.
And in December it's like I think it's like a 60% chance of 2 by the December meeting or at the December meeting. Might be different now. I checked like a couple days ago.
That should be good for gold.
Yeah, probably good for gold. Yeah,
For
so
a
18
2% move.
December, 18 December, there's a 55%. They're saying 55% that there will be 50 basis point cuts or 2 cuts by December. And some are it's starting to even price in 3 rate cuts now, potentially, but that's still quite
Wow.
low. So, yeah, seems like 2 is pretty locked in now for between now and the end of the year.
dude, how much? I'm changing the topic here. How much do you think Pump.Fun has made in its lifetime fees? Because I just saw a tweet.
Okay, so
What's
like
the
I was
tweet?
making probably $1 million a day for 6 months. So how
6
am
months.
I? Yeah, for 6 months. Yeah. that
Anyways, it
sounds
made
right.
60 mil. It's just like that's crazy, man.
500.
It's
Yeah.
those guys should never launch a token.
60 mil. That's pretty good. Good for them. That's
Crazy.
a lot. And by the way, gold's
That's a
up.
product market
Gold's
fit
up
right there.
20% this year. So putting in some pretty big moves. How much is Bitcoin up?
This year?
Yeah,
More than that, I think. 50%.
I would hope so.
I think it's up like
but
50% or maybe a little less, 40.
I'm doing the maths. It's up 50. But that's not bad for for the original gold.
For analog gold.
For analog Bitcoin.
That's not bad. It's humming along.
No, I think gold is really good, and I'm honestly, I am kind of annoyed that I didn't put on gold positions like when we were talking about, or when you were shilling it for like months and months and months. But it is what it is.
The reason I like gold is just because the central banks own gold. They don't own Bitcoin yet. Until the strategic reserves announced, I feel like that's the one thing gold will have on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I feel like we should wrap this up. The one thing I'll say is there's that big India exchange hack today, which seems pretty bad. So
How much got stolen?
like 300, but also
It's tough.
that's also India's like very hostile, and this is going to be used as like another reason to like fully ban it. That's what people are kind of so pouring out for our Indian brethren. Hopefully it turns out not too bad there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think we have anything else to talk about at this point, right?
We
All
will
right.
next time,
All
though.
right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
joining.
Nothing said on the Hive Mind is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our own opinions, not financial advice.